Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. This one is a bit of a special episode. Kind of. It's considered a lost episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. This episode was supposed to come out at the end of season 28. It was supposed to be released 2 weeks ago. But it wasn't. It wasn't for a vast majority of reasons. So here you go. You're like, Jason, it's not really a lost episode. It's just an episode you somehow forgot to upload. I didn't forget. Just having tons of technical problems. But luckily, all of my computer problems have been fixed. And luckily, I have this episode ready to go for you. So as I'm saying goodbye in this episode and saying I'll see you in 2 weeks, forget all that stuff. Forget all that stuff. You're all super confused. You're like, oh, what? I guess he's gone for 2 more weeks. Nope, I'm back. And here we go with the mysterious lost episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. When a world is on the brink, it's up to 12 brave men to save us all from the darkest evils beyond our dimension. And then we take a look at the story of a man with an extraordinary gift. He can see into the future. But what would you do with such a gift? And more importantly, if the only things you saw were horror and terror ahead, how long would it take before this power drove you insane? Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too. I hope you guys are having tons of fun doing whatever you're doing. We got a lot of stuff to cover today, and this is our last episode of season 28, so let's go ahead and get this ball rolling, running into Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Everyone get on your feet and give it up for Mizzy. Woohoo, yeah, she's all floating on in like a misty Mizzy, floating into Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Mizzy sent me a gift a while back. I mean, probably could have been a couple of years at this point. I'm pretty sure she got a shout out back then. But recently I found a batch of notes while I was cleaning up. And it's so funny. The first thing she wrote on the note was, "Get well soon." Can you believe that? I was sick back then and I'm sick today. Mizzy, thank you very much for giving me the gifts. I know I gave you a shout out, but before I lock this up into another note folder, I wanted to give you another shout out. That is why you are going to be our captain, our pilot this episode. If you guys can't support the show financially through the Patreon or the merch store or buying me gifts from my Amazon wish list, it's totally fine. It really, really is. Just help spread the word about Dead Rabbit Radio. That helps out so much. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. That is how you can help the show grow. Okay, let's go ahead and get this party started. Quick reminder. This weekend, I will be at the Port Gamble Ghost Conference, November 7th through the 9th. I will be giving a speech on fast food ghosts. I'm really looking forward to it. I got a lot of stuff to talk about. If you think you're able to come out and see it, the link is in the show notes. You can look at tickets and all that stuff. If you can't make it out to see it, totally understand, right? Totally get it. What I recommend then is finding paranormal conventions in your area and supporting those. It's a really great community to be a part of. This is also the last episode of the week. I'll be taking a 2-week break, and I will be back. I think it was don't make me look at a calendar. I'll be back. Why don't you want to look at a calendar, Jason? That's the weirdest thing. Is that your saw trap? No, 31 days. I'm going insane. I'll be back on the 25th of November, and we will be doing a Thanksgiving live stream on Thanksgiving like we normally do. We've done it every year, and I like that tradition. So we got a lot of good stuff rolling out with season 29. Really, really, really looking forward to it. New format, 3 episodes a week. This season we kind of switched in the middle of it. It's been very hectic for me, but I'm definitely at peace with the decision. It really helps. But anyways, so all of that stuff, 2-week break, Port Gamble Ghost Conference, a lot of good stuff going on. Let's go ahead and get this party started. I'm going to go ahead, Mizzy. Let's see. What do we want to use for our last vehicle of season 28? Mizzy, let's go ahead and get this ball rolling. Hey, that's a good idea for a vehicle. Everyone climb inside the bunny ball. That's not a vehicle, Jason. That's a shape. No, it's like one of those big hamster balls. How come we've never used this before? Everyone climb inside the bunny ball. This giant piece of plastic that just laying around Dead Rabbit Radio Command. It's been over there in the corner for the past 7 years. As Mizzy climbs on top and runs on it, What? You know, like a circus bear, like in a cartoon, in a Looney Tune or something. Mizzy's on top of it and she's running on it, and that is what propels the ball. That is what rolls the ball out of Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Mizzy, why don't you run as fast as you can with the ball underneath your feet all the way out, too? Switzerland. What does a ball sound like? That might be why we've never used this vehicle. What does a rolling ball sound like? Full of people. Whoa, 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 whoa. You know, like... Okay, Jason, maybe you do need a break. Maybe you do need a break. You've been awfully sick. You sound like a ghost was showing up, which is apt for a paranormal podcast. We're rolling around in a ball all the way out to Switzerland. But you know what? This is actually pretty... I gotta be honest. I shouldn't be taking the story we're about to cover so lightly. It's kind of ridiculous. Really. I'm embarrassed for myself and for the show. Because what we're about to talk about is pretty serious stuff. I tried to balance it well, but here we are, a bunch of Goombas rolling in a ball. This is a very serious topic. Let me center myself here for a second. We get to Switzerland, but the story actually starts before that. If you'll remember, this has been a kind of an ongoing story in the world. There's been a lot of issues geopolitically and issues here at home in the United States. Now, some of you guys may remember this, but President Biden, which I mean, he doesn't even remember that. He's like, oh, what? Who's that? What's my name? President Biden. Remember the big storm that hit North Carolina about a year ago? It was right before the election. Big storm hit North Carolina. People were crying out for help. Serious stuff. You're not going to joke about that. People died. Horrible. But what you didn't know, what only a few people knew, was that, yes, the storm was real and the human suffering was real, but what was even more real than that is North Carolina sits on huge lithium mine deposits, or lithium deposits that could be mined. And Joe Biden wants that lithium. He wants that lithium. So he actually sent in a private army to secure the lithium deposits after the storm. That's why he didn't want money to go to the relief efforts. The lithium. You're like, Jason, I hope you're building up to a joke here. Lithium. Lithium deposits underneath North Carolina. Just stay on topic. Well, anyways, luckily for us, the free citizens of the world, there is a breakaway group of U.S. soldiers known as the White Hats. And these are soldiers that have been loyal to President Trump even when he wasn't president. Because if you'll remember, you're like, oh, okay, now I know where this is going. If you'll remember, when President Trump lost to Joe Biden, a huge section of the military broke off and became the White Hats. And they did whatever he wanted. And he goes, hey guys, listen, it's going to be huge. This storm, it's huge. But what's even more huge is lithium. What? What are you talking about, Mr. President? It's going to be huge. Go get the lithium. So the White Hats, the good guys, because they wear white hats, went into North Carolina and helped secure this lithium. There was a huge shootout between a private military army commanded by Joe Biden. Which, come on, it doesn't sound like the hardest army to beat. He's like, what? What are we supposed to be doing? He's all dressed up as an admiral. And they're like, sir, this is the army, not the Navy. He's all, huh? What? Thought we were just going to go get some ice cream. Private army commanded by Joe Biden versus Donald Trump's loyalist soldiers. There's a big shootout, and Donald Trump secured the lithium mines. But he didn't do it alone. He didn't do it alone because there's also a third group lurking in the shadows called the Red Hats. And these are soldiers that, while they supported Donald Trump when he wasn't president, they weren't loyal to him. They were loyal to their commander, a guy named Colonel Kurtz, which I'm not 100% for sure, but I think that's the bad guy from Apocalypse Now. I've never seen it. I think that's who is in command. And you're like, Jason, what is going on? What? Is there really lithium under North Carolina? That was actually my first question when I read this article. There is. Huge lithium deposits. But anyways, we are in the realm of real raw news. This is to say a conspiracy theory website is almost giving it too much credit. I would consider it more like American political fan fiction. But the people who read it 100% believe that it's true. And I always have to say this every time I talk about Real Raw News. It's a website. It's run by a guy, a pseudonym, Michael Baxter. He makes from this website somewhere around $100,000 to $200,000 a quarter. He rakes in a ton of money strictly through donations. So this is not some blog spot. This is not some Tumblr post page or whatever. Big money-making organization. He also, you're in the big leagues when Bill Gates came after you, because he kept accusing Bill Gates of running a sex farm syndicate. He kept talking about Bill Gates had all these sex slaves in Oklahoma or Colorado or wherever Bill Gates keeps his sex slaves. I don't know. I'm not in the know, but Michael Baxter kept bringing it up, and then eventually he got a cease and desist order from Bill Gates' attorney. Like, personally wrote him and said, if you talk about this one more time, one, you're going to end up in one of these farms, but secondly, they don't exist. Secondly, we're going to sue you. So he stopped talking about all the Bill Gates stuff. Now, he hasn't been sued by anyone else he talks about. Hillary Clinton, that's how I found out about him. He did a story about Hillary Clinton going through adrenochrome withdrawals in Guantanamo Bay, and she was pooping her pants and they hung her. And I've been hooked ever since. But this is what's really interesting about this. There's two things I want to talk about with Real Raw News today. One, what recently happened in Switzerland. You're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I'm so confused about the rest of the intro. But there's really, really interesting thing going on because I kind of stopped checking Real Raw News. I think a lot of people do this. I kind of stopped checking Real Raw News regularly because it started to get boring. Because their guy is now in power. Right? Real Raw News supports Donald Trump. And when Donald Trump wasn't president, you could come up with all these crazy conspiracy theories. Everything that happened in the United States was the fault of Joe Biden, who is a clone at this point, who at this point is either a clone or a body double or a hologram or something like that. But if he's a hologram, I think they probably could program it a little bit better. I'm sure the hologram could have at least a memory. You have everything you hate, you can go, Joe Biden did it. Bad weather, Joe Biden planned. Maui fires, Joe Biden planned. But when your guy's in power, everything gets kind of boring, so I kind of stopped going to the website. Well, what's interesting is that I'm getting the hint that Michael Baxter doesn't like Donald Trump. Can you believe that? Only 39% of the population does at this point. But Michael Baxter, who supported him all this time, is now talking trash about him. Now, normally, who cares, right? Everyone has a political opinion, doesn't really mean anything. But Michael Baxter has, as far as I can tell, at least 50,000, 60,000 readers. If you look at the comments, if you look at the page views, it's insane. Plus, he's raking in all this money. And he's creating this fictional universe. So it's not just that he blogs, what? Donald Trump shouldn't have done that. He weaves into this fictional universe he's created Donald Trump sucking. It's so weird. It's super bizarre. But obviously, there's a lot of people who aren't happy with President Trump, even people who supported him. And that is where Colonel Kurtz is, this fictional character. Michael Baxter won't come out and say it, but Colonel Kurtz recently has been going off to all of his soldiers, all of his red hats. His soldiers have been noticing he's been kind of down lately. This maniacal imaginary character has kind of been depressed. They go, hey, Colonel Kurtz, why are you so bummed out recently? And he's like, it's Donald Trump. He's messing up everything. We have done all sorts of things for Donald Trump. And what has he done for us? Nothing. So basically, let me cut to the chase. I'm reading this article and I was like, oh, this is interesting. I didn't expect this fictional character to get so upset about a real life person. Colonel Kurtz is upset because Donald Trump loves AI, because of the tariffs is another thing, because Donald Trump loves cryptocurrency. I was like, the tariffs, sure. I can see people being a little bit upset about that, but the cryptocurrency one's kind of puzzling to me. He basically goes off. Colonel Kurtz is complaining about Donald Trump and saying all this stuff, being like, the international tariffs, it costs $16 to get a can of Folgers coffee. I didn't even know they still made that. He's like, he didn't do anything that he said he was going to do. He loves FEMA. He was supposed to get rid of FEMA. All these 3-letter agencies, he was supposed to get rid of them. But here he is talking about cryptocurrency and AI and blah, 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 blah. And I'm reading this article. It's just interesting, right? Because you see someone who's so gung-ho for years, built an entire community around supporting a guy, and now it's fallen apart. But that's not the main reason why I wanted to talk about this story. I find that interesting, but not 20 minutes interesting. What is 20 minutes interesting to me? And this is Real Raw News. I haven't been to you in a while because you got pretty boring. So I missed this story. In the middle of this article where Colonel Kurtz is complaining that Donald Trump sucks, basically, and lists everything that Donald Trump could possibly suck at, Colonel Kurtz goes, listen, Donald Trump doesn't realize we've sacrificed members of our very own army for him. And here he is talking about cryptocurrency. This is lame. This is dumb. He doesn't understand what we did, what we fought for, what we died for. And then the article goes, yeah, Colonel Kurtz is still pretty upset about the 12 men he lost while trying to shut down a time travel machine in Switzerland. And I go, what? I mean, I'd still be pretty upset about that too. But I go, what? How is that not the headline of this article? Colonel Kurtz says, hey, Donald Trump should shut down FEMA because we tried shutting down a time machine and we lost 12 men because of it. I was like, I gotta read that article. This article is interesting, just seeing someone kind of change their viewpoints. But okay, let's go see what happened. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen. We're in Switzerland. Let's step out of this ball. We get there just in time. This was in June of 2025. So pretty recent. Surprised you didn't see it on the news. I'm surprised CNN didn't cover this. A 12-man team, some of the most decorated warriors that the Red Hats have, were sent to Switzerland for one reason and one reason only. To destroy the CERN super collider. I imagine that's the noise it makes when you turn it on. But possibly even louder, or maybe no noise at all. Because it's all subatomic. Maybe you need tiny ears to hear it. A little mouse is like holding his head every time you turn it on. They're like, hey, let's put the mouse next to this. We'll call it an experiment. But I just want to see his tiny hands on his tiny ears. Because it turns out the CERN super collider has recently been working on time travel. Why, you ask? Well, I mean, tons of different reasons, right? You can go back in time and change things. But what would you change? I guess that'd be the main reason to go back in time. But what would you change? If you had a giant super collider and you could go back in time to any point in history, maybe I wouldn't change anything, Jason. Maybe I would just watch the first fish crawl out of the ocean and start flapping around until legs appeared. And then he gives you a little wink. He goes, it's faster than you thought. He scurries off into the jungle. You can change anything. You can do anything. Well, you could do nice stuff. You could go out and you could date Anne Boleyn. That's a real person, right? You could go and you could maybe woo Agatha Christie. You could go back in time and make love to the most famous women of all time. Which are like 3 of them, right? Helen of Troy, Cleopatra, and then Madame Curie. And then after that, you're like, okay, I'm kind of bored. But the evil minds at CERN, the crazy, maniacal maniacs of CERN, which, listen, here's the thing. CERN is weird. Outside of what I'm about to say, CERN is weird. We've done stories on the CERN super collider before. They had that really weird ritual that was caught on video that CERN says was fake, but it just doesn't make any sense that they would even be able to shoot that and get away with it in the first place. They said it was a bunch of students just faking a satanic ritual in the middle of their campus. But anyway, so we've covered CERN before. I'm sure they're on the up and up. But they definitely are part of conspiracy theory culture. And there may be something darker going on. Like outside of the super collider, like on their campus, there's a giant statue of Shiva, the goddess of destruction. I know she means more than that, but in pop culture, kind of in the mainstream, that's what Shiva represents. So, I mean, there are some weird connections to CERN. I'm not going to completely glaze them. But anyway, so Real Raw News says that they are truly evil people. And what would the most evil person in the world want to do with the time machine, you ask? They are trying to erase Donald Trump from the timeline. It kind of sounds a bit minor thing, right? In the history of the world. Listen, I know a lot of people don't like him, but that seems a little, I mean, you just think there's other points in time you could probably correct history. But CERN's like, no, we're going to use the super collider. We're going to make it so Donald Trump never existed. Not just didn't win the election, he never existed. Which is interesting, too, because CERN's always tied into the Mandela effect stuff. But again, this is fake, right? I can't go, maybe this is proof of the Mandela effect. Maybe they're doing it on purpose. I will say this is very interesting. Today, I woke up, took a nap, and I woke up, and I went into the bathroom, and I grabbed my phone, and I start reading the news, and it says Robert Pattinson gets ready for third Dune movie, and I go, what? He's not in any of them. And I don't even know if he's in the third one. And in my mind, in the back of my head, I go, what if this is a Mandela effect? What if I'm the only one who remembers Timothée Chalamet? Like, I was thinking this. You're like, Jason, you might really need a longer break. I'm all, running around. Timothy, where are you? I'm reading the article and I go, what if I died in my sleep and I shifted to a universe where Robert Pattinson was Paul Atreides, not Timothée Chalamet? And I'm like reading the article, I'm kind of getting worried. I was like, oh, I hope they mention Timothy soon, because if not, I think I'm going to lose my mind. And Robert Pattinson was like, oh yeah, filming movies in the desert, filming movies like Dune. I go, come on, get on with it. Just mention the other guy. And I'm reading the article, and then at the bottom it says, Robert Pattinson will play the villain. And I went, whew. Oh, that was a close one. Now to calm myself down, a book of my favorite kid's author, the Berenstain Bears. Oh, let me read this. No, I legit it's not a problem of being into the paranormal community. It's not a byproduct of it. I think I've always been like that. I don't think the show's making me lose my mind. But, and to be fair, as you're writing into my doctor, you're like, hey, can you get a welfare check? To be fair, guys, I just woke up. Okay, it wasn't like 1 PM and I was driving around and I stopped to get a Starbucks, then I looked at my phone. I had just woken up. But anyway, so CERN, super collider, Mandela effect, all of this stuff. We have a problem, though, if they're trying to change the timeline. And so they've decided to do that. Real Raw News names the guy, the Chief Particle Man. What's his official title? Let me look it up. Oh, he's the CERN Director for Accelerators and Technology, a man named Michael Lamont, who is a real man. This is why Michael Baxter gets in trouble. He takes real people and accuses them of committing horrible crimes. I mean, listen, if you're going to be accused of one thing, sex farming or trying to go back in time, trying to go back in time is not that bad, but he keeps calling this guy, he keeps calling Michael like a horrible man and a lunatic and stuff like that. And I was like, dude, you're going to hurt his feelings. All he wants to do is reset the universe. You don't have to be so mean. This is what can get him sued. He tries to say that the website's satire, but if you look at the comments, it's anything but. The people don't accept it as satire, and they give him money thinking he's exposing the truth. So Michael Lamont is apparently the head of Project Methuselah, which is this plan to supercharge these particles that will allow them to go back in time. Well, Colonel Kurtz found out about this before he soured on Donald Trump. This was still during the honeymoon phase, after the lithium wars. And Colonel Kurtz said, we need to send in a team to blow up the CERN super collider. So they loaded him up with a bunch of explosives and a bunch of guns and stuff like that, and everyone gave little salutes to each other. And then this 12-man team went to Switzerland. And they haven't been seen or heard since. And Colonel Kurtz goes, probably could have planned this mission out a little bit. Maybe I should have sent 13 guys. He goes, if we don't know what happened, the CERN super collider didn't explode, so their mission wasn't a success. It's possible they underestimated the defense forces of the CERN project. Maybe they have a very well-maintained super secret army that's able to fight off 12 of my best guys. Like, he's really having a hard time dealing with the death of his fictional soldiers. And he blames Donald Trump in a way. He goes, listen, we sent those men out to die, and now here you are talking about cryptocurrency. Like, what's up with that? He's starting to sour on him. I'm reading this article, and I, wiped away a little tear for the 12 red hats who died. But I do have to say, Colonel Kurtz didn't really plan this mission very well. Now, I obviously haven't been to CERN. I don't know exactly the layout. I don't have blueprints for it. I cannot plan a demolition mission. The facility is massive, by the way. You couldn't carry in enough weaponry or bombs to blow up the whole place. You could probably wreck a couple centrifuges or something. You could definitely send them back a couple of years, but you couldn't blow up the whole place. But here's what I found even more interesting, and it takes us, when we look at stuff like Real Raw News, we've been pretty normal this entire time. Even from the get-go, we've been covering them for years, and really the weirdest thing that they've introduced into this fictional yet real world is cloning. There was that one story we covered where they broke into a cloning facility and there was a bunch of naked Fauci clones. Which, funny, when's the last time you heard someone even mention the name Fauci? He was one of the big bad guys in this narrative just a couple of years ago, and you're like, wait, huh? What? Who? Fauci? You're like, oh, yeah, the COVID guy. I was like, yeah, the COVID guy. I haven't said the word Fauci in months, if not a year or two. It is probably on this show, probably talking about that story. Cloning. He talks about cloning a lot. Every so often, a human hologram, maybe a laser. So he's kind of established this Real Raw universe, the Real Rawverse, as being fairly grounded. I mean, none of it's true. I'm not saying that it's true. But if your conspiracy theory is Bill Gates bought a farm and built an underground pit or an underground facility and filled it full of sex trafficking victims, that's possible. I'm not saying that he did it. I'm not saying, but it can be done. Anyone with enough money could buy a piece of land and dig a giant facility underneath. You'd have to have a lot of money, but some people, maybe just a hole. My point is, you're like taking notes. You're like, some guys listen to this taking notes. He's like, how do you build a sex dungeon? Step 1, build a hole. No, what I'm saying is that's feasible. It's not good. Don't do it, but it's feasible. If you read that in the news, you'd be like, oh yeah, I mean, it's tragic. You're watching Bill Gates being led out in handcuffs. Tragic, right? But you wouldn't go, huh? Obviously, if a clone was found, if we found a Joe Biden clone, like a real one that had gone rogue, and it was actually proving that he was a clone, that would be bizarre. Because as far as we know, cloning technology is way, way, way not even close to that. However, now we've entered a new level of Real Raw News. And I'm just guessing, Colonel Kurtz, I'm guessing this is why your 12-man team didn't make it out alive. Apparently, and this is according to Real Raw News, this isn't any individual research on my part, apparently, the people who are using CERN are so evil that every time before they turn it on, they pray. And you're like, oh, that's kind of sweet, Jason. No, they pray to evil things. Pray to Jesus. You're like, oh, that's kind of interesting. They're like, oh, please, God, don't let this destroy the planet. Every time they turn it on, they might be saying a prayer like that. But no, according to Real Raw News, these guys are deviants. These guys are horrible, horrible. They're even beyond devil worshippers. They're not Satan worshippers. They're not worshiping demons. They're worshiping the elder gods. This is a real thing that is now introduced into the Real Raw News. I can't believe I missed this article. I had to go back and find it. I'm glad I was reading him complaining about Trump. Apparently, ever since the CERN scientists have been turning on the device, these amorphous, tentacle-covered creatures have been crawling out of the super collider and eating scientists. And the scientists can't get the monsters back in. They just have to watch as their fellow workers are getting torn to shreds And then eventually, whatever monster came out that day slithers back through the portal, and then the portal shuts. Now, how many times are you going to run that experiment? Apparently, it happens a lot. They haven't been able to figure out how to keep the monsters from coming out, but they want to keep running the CERN Super Collider, and every so often, this tentacle shoots out of this void and wraps around some young scientist and rips them in two, and drags the bodies back into whatever desolate dimension this beast came from. So the scientists began praying to these entities. That might be why your 12 soldiers didn't make it back. I'm just guessing. Sure, you go in with a bunch of explosives, but if you're fighting Cthulhu and his minions, right? You get in there and you're ready to plant the charges. All they have to do, all Michael Lamont has to do is press the button, and then all of a sudden, tentacles come shooting out of everywhere and rip your men to pieces. You could have 1,200 troops, 12,000. How do you fight one of the Elder Ones? So I'm just guessing. I don't think it was Trump's fault. I mean, Trump might be pissing you off because of the tariffs or whatever, but I don't think you can blame him for these ancient entities slipping through cracks in reality. You can blame him for a lot of stuff, but that one I will defend him on. I go, hey, whoa, he's back. He didn't do that. That's that lunatic Michael Lamont. And I heard he hangs out at Bill Gates' farm. But anyways, crazy. Michael Baxter has gone off the rails. This is so fascinating. Now, what's funny is, I was like, this is great. I started looking at all the other articles he's written recently. Boring, dumb. Some guy I never heard of from some government agency that I don't care about gets hung at Guantanamo Bay once again, and boring stuff. It's all fake still. But this might be a new era of Real Raw News. I mean, eventually, think about it. You're making up this fictional universe. Your audience demands more and more and more, and they think it's real. There is the theory, too, that these men somehow traveled back in time. If I was Michael Baxter, having this story left hanging, saying, I sent 12 men out, they never came back, because that was published in June. That was published like June, July. The article I read was far more recent, where he's complaining about Trump. I think that was like September, October. So time had passed. I'm wondering if he's going to bring the 12 soldiers back, or just one or two of them, and say, we went back in time and stopped Joe Biden from winning re-election. We went back in time. He would have won if we hadn't gone back in time. So we're living in the one-term Joe Biden timeline because of those soldiers. I mean, he could do anything, right? Anything now that happens, he could go, oh, yeah, that was the 12 soldiers who did that. I wonder if he's going to bring them back. I wonder, I'm kind of on the edge of my seat now. Will the Elder Ones make an appearance? Will Colonel Kurtz finally turn on Donald Trump? Is there going to be a civil war between the Red Hats and the White Hats? And I wonder if he's going to bring them back. I wonder if he's building this giant narrative, which would be kind of cool. As insane as this is, and as sad as it is that people believe that it's true, I mean, this stuff, it's entertaining. You know what's funny is if it was just fiction, I would never cover it on the show. I would read it and have a chuckle and go on with my day. I think the reason why I cover it on the show is because so many people believe it's true. That's when it goes from being real life fan fiction to conspiracy theory. Because there are people, you look through those comments, tens of thousands of people are visiting each article. It's insane. People think that it's actually true. This is way beyond Q. Remember Q? No one talks about that anymore. It's way beyond QAnon. It's way beyond Pizzagate. It's way beyond any of that. And people still buy into it. I love it. I think it's absolutely fascinating. It's very dangerous. Very, very dangerous, sure, but I'm not going to say he can't write it. Bill Gates' lawyer might say that. But fascinating. Will the Elder Ones make a reappearance? Did the soldiers die, or did they actually travel back in time or forward in time? Will they make a reappearance? Stay tuned. We will possibly find out, right? I'm not in charge. He may never write anything again. But interesting stuff. Mizzy, let's go ahead and toss you the keys of the world famous Carbonacopter. We're leaving behind Switzerland. Why don't you fly us all the way out to a young man's house? We're at this young man's house. We're going to go ahead and call. You know what? Before we actually get started with that, I want to give you a Dead Rabbit Radio recommends for my break, because I've seen some awesome stuff recently. And I've actually done a lot of Dead Rabbit Radio recommends. They almost always get cut for time. When I'm looking for edit to do, if I can edit out 5 minutes clean, it's always the Dead Rabbit Radio recommends, unfortunately. There's a movie I saw recently. I'm going to give you very little info on it. I went in as blind as could be. I saw the poster. The movie's called Found Footage. It's not a found footage movie. It's called Found Footage. And it's the story of a group of college students who want to make a found footage movie about the Bigfoot sighting, the very famous Bigfoot sighting of Patterson-Gimlin tape. They go, hey, let's make a Bigfoot movie, and we'll make it low budget, and we'll make it found footage. I'll tell you this. I went in expecting a found footage movie about Bigfoot, and it almost can't be any more opposite than that. By design, it's not like they did a bad job. Found footage. What's the subtitle? Because it's a hard movie to find. It's called Found Footage and then something else. Let me look that up real quick. I'll say one more thing. Its new movie, it just came out in 2025, is called Found Footage, The Making of the Patterson Project. Without, again, giving anything away, it's directed by Max Zanis. It does something that is so difficult to do. I watch probably 5 to 10 movies like this a month. They always fail. The exceptions are so rare. It is funny and it is scary. The funny stuff is really funny. And I was telling people jokes the next day after I saw it. And the scary stuff sticks with me. I watched this over the summer. The scary stuff that happens in that movie, I still think about from time to time. Like, legit scary and legit funny. It's super rare that you can have those two combined. It's fantastic. Dead Rabbit Radio recommends Found Footage, The Making of the Patterson Project. Okay, we visit the house of this young man. We're going to go ahead and call him Darren. And Darren is woken up from another night of restless sleep. He looks over at his pregnant wife, who we will call Jenny, and he reaches out and pats her stomach. And he goes, "Don't worry, little baby person inside my wife. Don't worry." He rubbed his wife. I don't know if people do that. Do husbands rub their wife's stomach while they're sleeping? Oh, yes. Look at this lump. Your lovely lady lump. Darren is trying to console the unborn child inside of his wife's womb. But really, he's trying to console himself. Because he just had a dream. And he knows what that means. Everything will not be all right. It's a really fascinating story, and I think it's a good one to end season 28 on. Pretty simple, but it raises a lot of questions. Darren said, listen, ever since I was a kid, I've had dreams and they've come true. When I was in middle school, I had the biggest crush on this girl. And I started to have dreams that we were going to get married. Weird, right? I'm in middle school. I shouldn't be thinking about marriage. Signing a contract, some dude telling us to kiss. I should be thinking about basketballs and Beyblades. But here I am having this dream of marrying my crush. I wonder if it will happen. I wonder if I will marry my middle school crush, Jenny. And he did. He goes, his dreams came true. I didn't really think of it at the time. I was having these weird dreams. Something seemed odd about them, but, I never thought I'd actually marry Jenny. He would often dream about his grandfather, and his grandfather died before he was born. Darren goes, but I would very often dream about my dead grandpa. A little unsettling, but nothing. His grandpa didn't come back from the grave. His grandpa was doing the Thriller dance. No, he'd just have dreams about his grandpa who was dead, and he would know he was dead in the dream. A man he'd never met before kept visiting him. It was a little off-putting. But, whatever. At this point, further later in life, Darren is married to Jenny, and Darren's working at this workplace, and he starts having these dreams. They're always reoccurring. He keeps having these dreams, and I would dream I was working in a new building, and I had the dreams so often, and they were so realistic, that I got to know the layout of the building. This dream building, I knew where everything was at. And he said what happened was these dreams would play out the same. We would be working in this new building, and my boss kept going, hey, listen, you put down the Johnson report. I need you to go over to Schlacker and Schneik. That's the law firm. That's the law firm across the hall. Go to them. Talk to them for a bit. And he goes, oh, great, okay. So he would go and work for these other companies in the building when he was supposed to be working at his company. And he'd wake up and be like, what a weird dream. Why am I dreaming? I'm working for 4 companies. The one I work for in the real world, and then 3 other ones in a building I've never been to that I now know the layout of. And he goes, his dreams were super stressful because he can never get his job done, and his boss kept sending him off to work with these other groups. Well, sure enough, one day, Darren is sitting there in his office, and his boss comes in and goes, hey, Darren, so I'm letting everyone on the team know we're actually going to be moving locations soon. I got a space reserved in this other building we're going to be moving, and Darren's like, oh, okay. So, it's not as frantic. The companies aren't as goofily named as in the dreams. But Darren goes, eventually we did move into this other building, and he goes, damn it, the layout was the same as the dream. He goes, I knew my way around the building. I'd been there multiple times while I was sleeping. And there were 3 other companies there. And over time, my boss started working with the 3 other companies for other just different reasons. And my workload got way heavier because he had me being a liaison to these other groups. So he goes, my dream came true. And it was a sucky dream. Like, I would wake up so stressed out, and now that's my life. And he sits there and goes, what is this isn't even a matter of what are the odds. He dreams of a building he's never been in. There's 3 companies in the building. His boss starts working with the 3 companies, and that means he starts working with the 3 companies. And his workload has tripled or quadrupled because his own workload plus the 3 other. No, I guess that would be tripled. But anyways, he's just stressed. So at what point do you actually go, I think I have the ability to see the future in my dreams? Because now he has two occurrences. Both of them fairly specific. Dreaming of the girl he was eventually going to marry when they were very young. And the second one, it's so specific, it's out of the realm of, everything's up to chance, sure, but astronomical that the dream would match up to reality so well. He goes, there is one thing I would wonder. Every so often I'd have dreams of people dying horrible deaths. Deaths so horrible, they made the news. I would be in this dream and I would see someone get horribly maimed or mutilated or blown to bits or whatever. It was always shocking. It was always terrifying. And then a couple days later, I'd be reading the newspaper or watching the news, and they would mention that accident, that death. And he never met any of these people. He goes, I saw that death. And really, he can't do anything about any of this. None of it is avoidable. He can't help the people from dying because he doesn't know them previously. His only out with the workplace thing is to quit. But you wouldn't have. If you, all of that stuff lined up, if you had those dreams and then your boss did move to another building, you wouldn't immediately quit. But once you went in the building and you noticed the layout was the same, you still wouldn't immediately quit. You'd think it was weird. It stretched out over a long enough time. He kind of knew what was coming by the time he found out there were 3 companies there. But his only option would have just been to quit working for that company. He can't save these people. But this is where things are with Darren in bed next to his pregnant wife who was sleeping. When Jenny was pregnant with their first child, who we will name Sarah, Darren started to have these dreams. Wah, wah, wah. Oh, baby Sarah, what's the matter? Wah, wah. Baby Sarah can't talk, right? It's a baby. And the parents don't know what's wrong with her. So this is all in the dream. I don't know if in the dream they took the baby to a dream doctor, or if sometimes, knowledge just is in the dream. The dream takes place in the middle of a moment. You know the events leading up to it. Whatever the case, maybe they took her to a dream doctor, because his dreams do seem pretty realistic. In the dream, and Darren had a lot of these dreams. It was always the same. Sarah would be crying in pain. And the reason is she was super constipated. She had major blockages in her guts. She couldn't poop, which is like the one thing a baby is good at. Sarah couldn't do it. And Darren said the nightmares were, that was the only way to describe them, was a true nightmare. He goes, it felt like I was living in hell every time that dream started. It was your own child screaming in pain for the duration of the dream, and there was nothing you can do to help her. Nothing. It's an internal issue. And he would wake up and he would just be terrified. If you had that dream, if I had that dream, we might be worried. If we had that dream a couple times, we might start to be alarmed, but I don't dream of the future. I don't dream of things that are going to happen and have a track record of it. But Darren is really, really, really worried, concerned that this dream will come true. And sure enough, when Sarah is born, I was originally going to do a bunch of sound effects and have Sarah be born and make all this noise, but let's just end season 20 in on a quieter note. When Sarah is born, she's born with something called Hirschsprung's disease. Hirschsprung's disease. And what happens is, I looked it up online, like drawings and stuff like that. It's pretty disgusting. But basically, your colon, I'm not a doctor, but from the drawings that I saw, it looks like your colon shrivels up to the point that your poop won't go through it. She can't poop. And that's the one thing. There's 3 things a human has to do: eat, sleep, and poop. And pee. But that's kind of poop. If you do all 3 of those things, you can be alive. If you can eat, sleep, and poop, and pee, then you're golden. But if you can't do one of those things, you're dead. I guess you could probably not sleep too, but you'd be miserable. I think you would die. My point is that she can't do one of the main 3. And it's fatal if not corrected. It's one of those things that used to kill people outright back in the day, but now with surgery and medical intervention, it can be worked around. It's noticed in babies because what happens is, if you have it, you don't just develop it as an adult. Maybe if someone stuck a sparkler up your butt and burned your colon, they might die. You might be diagnosed with this, yes. The cast of Jackass goes in, I don't know why I haven't been able to poop. I stuck an M80 up my anus. No, usually it's babies, right? Because you wouldn't live long enough. It's not like you'd be 28 years old and all of a sudden the doctor's like, hey, you have Hirschsprung's disease. What? Your colon is shriveled. Haven't you ever realized you've never gone poop? No, what happens is a baby doesn't poop within the first 48 hours. That's a sign that they can't poop. Think about how terrifying that must be to have a baby who's sick. And anyway, this one's a deadly illness. So, the dreams were true. Sarah was born with Hirschsprung's disease. She's about 4 years old at this point. She's had multiple surgeries. And every day of her life is a struggle. One of the very basic things the human body was designed for, hers does not easily do. This is a very interesting story to me. It's tragic. And the question, there's really 2 questions here. One, would you want the ability to see into the future if you could do nothing to change it? The only thing that you could do is prepare for it. That's it. You could do nothing to change it. Would you want to know? And then my second question is, and that's kind of where I feel Darren is at, what if you couldn't prepare for it at all? If you knew for sure that your child was going to be born without the ability to poop, you could mentally prepare for it, but would you want to? This is really interesting to me because I don't know what. Would you rather be surprised? You're like, no, not really, Jason. It's good that he at least knew that it was coming. I don't know. And what I think's funny is look at the example. Now, this was his narrative. He posted this online, and I really got to wrap this up. We're going long. But he posted this online. I gave you the examples he gave us. There's one example that is really one of these things that's not like the other. The marriage to Jenny. That was the one thing he wanted that he dreamt about. So I also wonder if something bad is coming down the pipe as far as that's concerned as well. If he has all of these negative dreams, and one dream stands out as being positive, that dream may also be negative. He just doesn't know it yet. So it's just bizarre story overall. And would you want the ability to see in the future if you knew you couldn't stop it? And if most of your dreams, if not all of them, were nightmares? Would you want to be able to see the nightmare coming before it arrived? And I don't know what my answer would be to that. I think my gut instinct is, yeah, I would want to know so I could at least prepare mentally for it. But yeah, that would be fine for a one-off thing, but imagine every bad thing that happened in your life, you dreamt about it multiple times before it happened. Now it doesn't sound like a superpower anymore. Now it doesn't sound like an edge or allowing you to kind of prepare for stuff because you can't change it. You can just mentally prepare for it. Now it sounds like a curse. All those bad things that have happened to you throughout your life, imagine before they happened, you dreamt about it 3 or 4 times. It would almost make it more chilling because you don't know when it's going to happen. You just recognize the pattern. You have a reoccurring dream for a while, and then at another point in the future, it happens. I think that would drive you insane. I think that type of ability would drive you mad. And I think there probably are a lot of people out there who are considered crazy. When I say a lot, I mean statistically insignificant, a statistically small amount, but globally, people who have abilities like this who are considered insane because they have been driven insane because of them. Knowing the future, the terrible future, and not being able to stop it. Having that happen over and over and over again. There is only one word to describe that type of reality. A nightmare. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad that you listened to it today. Hope to see some of you guys at the Port Gamble Ghost Conference. Everyone else, I will see you in 2 weeks. Be safe. Have a great one. See you soon.